Khilafa Zindabad, Ahmadiyya Zindabad, Khilafa Zindabad, Ahmadiyya Zindabad, Khilafa Zindabad, Ahmadiyya Zindabad, Alifa Hindiya Wankoso, Ahmadiyya Wankoso da, Alifa Hindinu Wankoso, Ahmadiyya Wankoso da.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We welcome you once again, dear viewers, to your favorite program, Milestone, a program wherein we discuss and study the rich history of Ahmadiyyat, a Jamaat planted by the very hands of Allah the Almighty through the advent of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. Today in our discussion, we are going to talk about the fulfillment of a grand prophecy, a prophecy about the occurrence of an eclipse. And this is as a sign of one of the many signs of the truthfulness of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. And as usual, with me here are gentlemen from Jamia Ahmadiyya International. On my immediate right is Mr. Suleiman Abdul Hakim, who is a Nigerian, and then with him is Abdul Hakim Ajman Boatin, a Ghanaian. Gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, to begin with, let me begin with you, Mr. Suleiman. Now, we read in narrations that, there are many signs of the truthfulness of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. One of the many signs is the fact that the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said there's going to be an eclipse, and that eclipse is going to be a very grand, a sign in support of the truthfulness of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. In our literature, we find the mention of this eclipse again and again. So here, this time around, we would like you to tell us about this prophecy and when it occurred, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear viewers. As we all know that the awaited Mahdi, the awaited promised Messiah, is not for only the Muslims, not only awaited by the Muslims, but as well as the Christians, as well as the Buddhists, as well as the Hindus. So we find this grand prophecy in the Bible as well, and Almighty Allah hinted us about this prophecy in the Holy Quran. Okay. Then the Holy Prophet Muhammad gives us the clear picture of this prophecy when he says that Inna limahdiyina ayatain lam takuna munzu khalqi samawati wal ard ينكسف القمر لأول ليلة من رمضان وتنكسف الشمس في النصف منه ولم تكون منذ خلق الله السماوات والأرض. The translation which goes thus that for our Mahdi we have two signs, that the moon will eclipse at the first night of its eclipse day in Ramadan, and as well the sun will eclipse at the middle date of its eclipse days in Ramadan. And these two signs has not been for the claimant of anyone since Almighty Allah has created the heaven and the earth. We see this revelation, this prophecy as well in the Bible. In Matthew chapter 24 verse 29, we see that it states that after the tribulations of those days, the sun shall darken, the moon will not give its light, the stars shall fall, and the power of the heavens will be shaken. And after this, you will see the Son of Man coming down in the cloud of glory and victory. And we see that as well in Surah Al-Qiyamah, in Quran chapter 75 verse 7 to 10, we see when Almighty Allah also has hinted us that يسأل أيان يوم القيامة فإذا برق البصر وخسف القمر وجمع الشمس والقمر. That when the time of the resurrection day, the later days will come near, you will see that the moon shall eclipse, the sun shall also eclipse at the same time. And here we see that this is a hint which Almighty Allah has also given us in Surah Al-Qiyamah. And this is the prophecy that shows of the coming of a promised Messiah for the whole world, not only for the Muslims, as we see that the prophecy can also be found in the Bible itself, and as well for the Hindus and other religions that are waiting for the promised reformer.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, can you give us the biblical reference again?
Yeah, in Matthew chapter 24, verse 29, and we have as well in Mark chapter 13, verse 24.
Okay, so this was also one of the many signs Jesus mentioned that is going to be fulfilled to herald his appearance.
Exactly.
Right. Mr. Hakim, tell us, now, as he rightly mentioned, he quoted the hadith from Darul Qutni. Can you tell us about this hadith into details, the verities in this particular hadith, and how you can help us understand this hadith in the best possible manner? Can you help us?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You know, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a man of great insight, and because he did not or he doesn't say anything of his own, but what is revealed to him, just as is stated in the Quran, the Holy Quran, that is what he also brings forth to the people.
Okay.
So when he is stating this, we must know that there must be some sort of in-depth knowledge in it. It is not just as we are saying it literally, but because he said that yankasiful qamar li awwali laylatin min Ramadan. If you are to say that this li awwali laylatin min Ramadan means that the moon will be eclipsed on the first night of Ramadan, then we would be wrong.
Right.
Because on the first night of Ramadan, the moon is called hilal in Arabic. As in English, we call it a crescent.
Right.
And even as when Ramadan is approaching, time for the Muslims to fast, in some countries, they are able to see this crescent. Some are not able to see.
Yeah, that is the first night.
The first night of Ramadan.
Yes.
So even if the moon is not eclipsed, when the moon is not eclipsed and some are not able to see, what will happen if it is eclipsed? Then no one will be able to see this sign.
So I think this gives, us a clue, or the reveals the sort of personality the Holy Prophet ﷺ was at that time. How scientifically he gave an approach to such things, because as you are mentioning, first night can be Qamar. So why the mention of Qamar? Please, you go ahead.
So he mentioned Qamar because when the moon would have been full, and now, as in Arabic, it would have been called Qamar, then that is when, within the possible days, that is the 13th, 14th, and 15th, that are the possible days when we can have an eclipse of the moon. Okay. He said on that first night of these 3 possible days, that is when the moon will be eclipsed, which means it will be eclipsed on the 13th.
Meaning by then, the moon would have graduated or would have developed from Hilal to Qamar.
Right. Yes. So this was the reason why he used Qamar and not Hilal, because on the first night we cannot have an eclipse of the moon that will be so apparent, so clear to the world. So this eclipse, before it occurred in 1894, the promised Messiah was faced by many opponents who went to him, asking him, some in a form of to ridicule him. They were saying that you are claiming to be the Mahdi, the promised Messiah and Mahdi, alayhi salam, who has been sent by God. This is the prophecy, or this is the sign that has been foretold that when the Mahdi will come, you will see. So if it is true that you are the promised Messiah and Mahdi, then where is this sign?
Show us the sign.
Yeah. So the promised Messiah also prayed fervently to his Lord, Allah the Almighty, to show the people that he has sent him the promised Messiah, and the promised Messiah had not made any claim based on his selfish desire. So Allah the Almighty, in fulfillment of the prophecy of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, and in answer to the prayers by the Prophet sallallahu, answered this in 1894 when he showed this great sign to the world, and those people in the eastern hemisphere of the world, that is people in Africa, Asia, and Europe, could witness this sign also. And on the 21st of March, 1894, the moon was eclipsed. That was on the 13th night of Ramadan in 1311 of the Hijri calendar. The moon was eclipsed. And on the 6th April 1894, the same month of Ramadan, not any other month, the same month, the sun also was eclipsed.
Meaning this dual eclipse occurred in one single month.
In one single month.
In
That's
the
the month
of Ramadan. Right.
And in 1895, this sign was also manifested in the Western Hemisphere for the people living in the American continent to also witness and see the truthfulness of the promised Messiah, alayhi salam. And this eclipse in itself, it has no speciality because it has been taking place from time to time.
Right.
Records or history has it that even before the appearance of the promised Messiah, alayhi salam, there had been so many eclipses that had happened during the time of the Holy Prophet and even before that. The speciality this is having here is that for it to occur based on a prophecy that has been foretold so long ago, this is what makes it special here.
Right.
Because if you check the conditions that were attached to it, the Holy Prophet mentioned that at that time that this sign will
be
manifested, there will be a claimant.
Right.
Someone who would have claimed to the world that I am the promised Messiah,
Right.
I am the Imam Mahdi,
Right.
whom you have been waiting for. And the second, that it will be in the month of Ramadan. An eclipse can happen in any month, but I said for this eclipse, which will serve as a sign to the truthfulness of the promised Messiah, will be in the month of Ramadan. And he did not leave it there that in the month of Ramadan. He stated a date on which it will happen, that on the 13th, that is the first night of the possible days of the moon to eclipse.
Just let me, these days are scientific findings,
Of course.
which prove that, the eclipse cannot just happen anytime. But there are some specific days. So for the whole of Islam, 1,400 years ago, to have known this fact, this scientific fact, it's really amazing.
This shows really amazing. Also his truthfulness, that he was indeed the seal of the prophet,
right,
as is mentioned in the Holy Quran. And then the fourth condition was that on the 28th day of Ramadan, that is the middle of the 3 possible days in which we can have the eclipse of the sun, then this was a condition that was mentioned by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it is not that the eclipse itself is having any sort of significance or speciality, but to be as a sign for someone who has claimed to be from God, who has claimed to be a prophet.
Makes it special.
This is what is mentioned in the hadith, that it has never happened since the creation of the heavens and the earth. Not that this eclipse has never happened, but it has never happened to show the people.
Yes, to buttress the claim of a claimant. Right.
And so the prophets are even challenging the people that if you think this is a phenomenon that has happened before, for the truthfulness, to bear the witness to the truthfulness of any prophet, then I am challenging you to bring any history book or any record that shows this.
Right. Quite interesting.
In fact, if I could make this submission, that as we see that the prophecy was fulfilled in 2 phases. One, it occurs in the Eastern Hemisphere, and the second one occurs at the Western Hemisphere.
Eastern and Southern Hemisphere. Right.
Sorry. So we see in this hadith that the Holy Prophet said that Lam takuna munzu khalqil samawati wal ard at the first period, and at the end the Holy Prophet also end it as Lam takuna munzu khalaqallahu samawati wal ard, because scientifically we know that we cannot have day throughout the world. Some parts will be of day and some parts will be of night at the same time. So it is showing us that the Holy Prophet Muhammad has had the scientific knowledge of the orbit of the earth and the sun, which shows the day and the night.
Right.
And he gives us this prophecy in 2 phases, that this will happen for the other part of the world that could be able to witness it at the first time of it, and at the following year, as we see, at the fulfillment of this prophecy in 1895, it also occurred to others, so that the whole world will know that the promised one that we are all waiting for has come. And this was how Almighty Allah has greatly fulfilled this sign.
I mean, this is also a proof that his coming wasn't for the Muslims alone, but it was for the entire world. So the sign has to be seen or has to be observed by whoever was on the surface of the earth, irrespective of his religious affiliation. Right. Now, still on you. So now the eclipse has occurred. I'm sure there will be a lot of outcries and noise around. That I mean, some will definitely believe having seen that, and I'm sure some will oppose that. Can you tell us about the public reaction?
Yeah, as my colleague has said, after the eclipse occurred in the civil and military Gazette of Lahore, this was published, and as well as
You mean this was a newspaper?
There was a newspaper,
okay.
Military, Civil and Military Gazette of Lahore,
okay.
and at the same time the Pioneer of Allahabad. This was published, and Alhamdulillah, we give glory to Almighty Allah that some people were raised in the status of their faith, that they come from far and wide to meet the promised Messiah salam, and they accept him. And we have even, for example, we have from Mecca a person, Muhammad bin Ahmad. He came to Qadian and accept the promised Messiah salam. He even requested him that he should write a book which will be for the Arab world. The promised Messiah on this request wrote a book, Amamat al-Bushra. So this shows that this is not just a sign that just happened, but it goes wide. It goes to the extent at which people come far and wide to accept the promised Messiah on this. And as well as you've said that there will be a lot of people who oppose this. And a very interesting event, it happens that one Muslim cleric, seeing this sign occurring, he said, now people will be misled. Instead of saying that Almighty Allah has shown the support of the promised Messiah, he said now the heavens is lying against, in support of the promised Messiah. He said now people will be misled. We can see that as obvious as this could be, that even the enemies, those who are opposing the promised Messiah, says that now this has occurred, what is going to happen? Whereas we supposed to have accept the person sent by Almighty Allah and support it by the heavenly signs. And this wasn't all, because we see that there were many oppositions as to this hadith and as to this book Darul Qutni. And as we know that it is not as Almighty Allah has said, and the Holy Prophet Muhammad has said, if we have an hadith or a narration that states that this would happen, then if that narration is false, then Almighty Allah shouldn't show any sign in support of such narration.
Right.
But as we see that they claim, they are the one, as my colleague has rightly said, that they are the one asking for a sign. After this sign was shown, they said that this is the narration of this hadith is lie. And we can see that even the chain of narration of this hadith is from Imam Bakir, the great grandson of Hazrat Ali, one of the Khulafa al-Rashidin. And this shows that this hadith is complete one, is truth. And Almighty Allah would have not shown a sign or in support of heavenly sign which cannot be uttered by anyone. If we say that by next week somebody will come from Accra or from Nigeria or from Uganda, we could plan it. But Almighty Allah, this is Eclipse, which even science, they testify that no one can alter this. So if Almighty Allah will have shown this sign in support of the promised Messiah, which are heavenly signs, then it means this hadith, this narration should be authentic one, should be true, and should be direct to the Holy Prophet Muhammad.
Right. Now, with the mention of Darul Qutni, there is this allegation, allegation against the Jamaat that, we keep stating this particular hadith that, a prophecy has been made by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and then it has been fulfilled, that is Eclipse, but the issue is that it was recorded in Darul Qutni, and we know Darul Qutni is not part of Sihah Sita. That's the six authentic books of Ahadith. So, Hakim, tell us, how do we, resolve this? Because it has happened, and it's true from their assertion, it's true, it is not part of Sihah Sita. So, how do we prove that indeed this is a true prophecy, and that Darul Qutni the narration was authentic? It can be traced back to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
The promised Messiah ﷺ had explained and expounded to us that if there comes to us any hadith, then what we should check is that hadith against the teachings of the Holy Quran, or any teaching of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Right.
If it is in accordance with the Holy Quran, then we cannot say this hadith. We will not accept this hadith because it is in line with the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Again, whether it is part of the 6 authentic books of hadith or not, what we must check is that this is a prophecy. This hadith is regarding a prophecy made by the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If that prophecy has fulfilled, then why are we saying because it is not a part of the 6 authentic books of hadith, then we can't accept it?
Because it has
happened.
Fulfilled. So how then?
And you know, God will not see to it that a liar writes something or makes a prophecy, and then God will make that prophecy come to pass.
About 1,400 years
about
ago.
1,400 years ago. If he is to do this, then he will be, God forbid, deceiving the world.
Yes.
God himself will be deceiving the world. God can't deceive anybody. He brings us the truth. So whether it is found in those 6 books of hadith, even these 6 authentic books of hadith, some narrations are there which are regarded as weak, da'if,
right.
by scholars and Muslims. So we cannot say all the hadith in the 6 authentic books of hadith are all correct, or we cannot also accept all of them because some are regarded as da'if. But even if any hadith from, let's say, Ghana or any place, which is even of a lesser status than this Darul Qutni, and is having a prophecy, is bearing a prophecy, and that prophecy is fulfilled, then we cannot say it is weak again.
Yes.
Because if it was weak, then how come it got fulfilled?
Right. Yeah, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just want to add that from the side of the Arabs, about the book Hamamatul Bushra, it was later on printed at Cairo, and a lot of people get guidance through this, because this is a great sign which Almighty Allah, the Promised Messiah explained in this book, and he wrote the book also in Arabic language in order to give the good impression and to explain to the Arabs themselves that the prophecy of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, claiming that the Holy Prophet himself is a true prophet, because for a prophet, one of their ability, one of their characteristics is that they make prophecy and it got fulfilled at the points which they have mentioned.
So, I mean, it's clear that Darul Qutni, in spite of the fact that it's not part of Sihar Sita, it has a prophecy, a grand prophecy, which has been fulfilled. So, I mean, no one can have that, moral, audacity to refute this. It has been fulfilled. So, I mean, God will never sit back. A prophecy made, God forbid, by a liar, as you rightly mentioned, about 1,400 years ago, to get fulfilled. I mean, so if it's a prophecy made by, a liar, then we have to accept that liar. Then that liar is a wonderful liar because he made a prophecy and it has been fulfilled. So how possible? So this clearly is an indication that in spite of the fact that it's in, as you rightly mentioned, in Darul Qutni, and it's not found in Sihar Sita, doesn't falsify the prophecy. What we have to talk, we have to know is that the prophecy has been fulfilled. So that is the most important.
And if this prophecy was not true, then why did they first of all go to the Promised Messiah and ask him that this is the prophecy that is stated in the hadith that when you come, the Mahdi comes, then we are going to see the eclipse of the sun and the eclipse of the moon. If it was not true, then why did they initially go to him to ask? Then after its fulfillment, now they are saying it was a weak hadith, it was from a book that is not part of the 6 authentic books. We can't accept this to be...
And in fact, if we see that even in Darul Qutni itself, this is why I'm saying that Imam Bakir, which is said to be the narrator of this hadith, is not just only a person that we can just say is, but rather is one of the great-grandson of Hazrat Ali. Imam Bakr, the son of Imam Sayyidun Abidin with the name Ali. And Imam Sayyidun Abidin is the son of Hazrat Hussein. And Hazrat Hussein is the son of Hazrat Ali. And Hazrat Ali, as we see, is the one who is the cousin of the Holy Prophet, and not only the cousin of the Holy Prophet, but got married to the daughter of the Holy Prophet. As we see that this chain of this hadith even shows us how authentic this is. And about Hazrat Ali, the Holy Prophet even has stated that he is the door, is the door of the city of knowledge. So this shows the authenticity of this hadith when we are talking even on the perspective of narrations or chain of narrations of hadith.
Now, I'd like to know, as you rightly mentioned, after it occurred, the public, there were a faction of the public that accepted the promise. They were overwhelmed and they were convinced that indeed the promised Messiah was a truthful person, because such a prophecy has been fulfilled after a challenge thrown to the promised Messiah. That if you are the promised Messiah, then show us the sign. And then he prayed to his God, and now it is fulfilled. But my concern is, why again will others, deny this after seeking for the fulfillment of such a prophecy? Why again will people, deliberately deny such a thing to the extent that a person can utter such a statement that the heaven is now turning lies, in support of the promise? This is very it's something I just can't comprehend. I think this also tells us, or this also is an indication that it is Allah who gives guidance. It is not by the calculations of man. So that whoever wants guidance should be of a pious nature, and then should have good intentions. And then if there's any truth, Allah will rightly guide him towards that truth. So I think all those people who deliberately did not accept this prophecy, it's clear that there was no way for them.
This even goes a long way to prove the truthfulness of the Prophet as being a prophet who was sent by God. Because if you are to look through history, we will find out that when the prophets came, during the advent of various prophets, we had such people who went to the prophet for signs. That if it is true that you are from God, you have been mentioned in so and so book, that you are the one supposed to come, then show us this sign. We had many such occasions, even to the old Prophet ﷺ, to Jesus Christ and Hazrat Moses ﷺ. All of them were asked for signs. And whenever these signs were fulfilled by Allah the Almighty to these people, we had a fraction that accepted this sign, or saw the sign and accepted the prophets. And we had some who initially were the people asking vigorously for such a sign, but later on, when the sign was manifested or fulfilled, they turned their backs and went away, and not even went away, they rather increased their opposition to the prophets that came. So the one characteristic for us to see that a prophet is true or not is to have such people who would ask for a sign, and when the sign has been delivered or manifested to them, then they will turn their backs. So if such people were found to be at the time of the promised Messiah, then it even increases our faith in the promised Messiah, that he is the true Imam Mahdi and the promised reformer that was prophesied in the Holy Quran, the Hadith, the Bible to come, and in other religious
sorry
books.
to cut you, but I've been signaled that we are out of time. So I'm sure you would love to share a whole lot with us, but I must say we really appreciate your coming, and we really appreciate the discourses and the pieces of information you have shared with us. Viewers, as you heard it all, this was a grand prophecy, the occurrence of an eclipse as a sign of the truthfulness of the promised Messiah, which got fulfilled. So the issue of it being not in a Sehasita isn't a matter to be discussed. What is important is the fact that a prophecy was made and it has been fulfilled. So as you heard our guest explicitly explained that indeed this thing has fulfilled, and then this is an indication that indeed it was a prophecy of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Join us again, same time next time. Until we meet again, we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be on us all.